What's up, guys? Welcome back to Speed Math and CS. Today we will be covering our second lesson for APCSP in order to get you guys ready for the AP test. So, yeah, let's get to it. And this will be our last lesson for before like for this week. So, you guys will have plenty of time to study, do the homework that I posted last week last video and familiarize yourselves with these concepts. So today, what our topic is probably like one of, if not the most important concept that you need to know for APCSP, basic internet concepts. So this you are gonna I guarantee that you're gonna get a lot of these on the AP exam. You're gonna get a lot of internet questions. So it's very important for you to slow down, understand the vocab so you can be successful in answering the questions. So here's some vocab. So a computing device, you need to know this. It's a machine that can run a program. It's like a computer basically. So whatever you're using right now. So a computing system, a group of devices working together for a common purpose. So like for example, device A is working with device B and also working with device C. And a path is a series of connections between computing devices on a network starting with the sender and ending with the receiver. So in this case, the direction this is traveling in, this thing here would be considered the path if we use a diagram to explain this. So, and the bandwidth is it's a bit it's a bit more hard to it's a bit harder to understand, you but it's basically the maximum amount of data that can be sent in a fixed amount of time. So usually this is measured in bits per second. And a router is a type of computer that forwards data across a network. So for example, if I want to send data to a different computer, for example, a text, a router is going to help with that. And redundancy is the inclusion of extra components so that if one component fails, the device can still continue to run. So for example, in there are going to be certain diagram problems on the AP test where you're going to have to determine which which devices connect to which computers and what happens if you disconnect one of the devices. So that's basically the concept for redundancy. So basically what a network is you need to know that computing devices, they make up the computing systems. We talked about this on the previous slide. Now here's some more vocab that we need to know. A protocol is an agreed upon set of rules that specify the behavior of some system. For example, sending data and the how you send data, what you send, those are all like part of protocols that people need to users need to consider when they send data. So our first protocol is internet protocol, or IP. So it's a protocol for sending data across the internet that assigns unique numbers, known as IP addresses, which we'll talk about here, to each connected device. Its design enables continued growth so that new devices can be connected without interruption, basically. So it's a pretty it's one of like the big overarching protocols for like almost anything you do on the internet. So what an IP address is, it's a unique number assigned to each device once connected to the internet based on the physical location. And it's there's no real pattern for it. You just need to know that there's a unique number assigned to each device. So yeah. And here are some protocols for sending these two are going to be protocols for sending data. So sending, sorry, my writing's bad. Data. So our first one is Transmission Control Protocol, or TCP. So it's a protocol for sending information that requires a high degree of accuracy rather than speed. So examples of this are emails, web pages, and important files, because they require more accuracy and less speed. And UDP is a protocol for sending information that requires speed more than accuracy. So the opposite of TCP, like video games, and media, that kind of stuff. And now let's talk about how data is split up. So how data is sent. So there's basically parts of data. The data is split up into smaller pieces called packets, and packets are data sent over the network that can take multiple routes to reach the same destination. And the route that they choose to take is completely random. So let's say this is our data. Then here it's broken into different packets, right? And there are multiple different paths it can take to reach its final destination, for example. And basically, what you need to know is that packets will never take the same path always. It's gonna depend based on like the traffic and the situation. That's the one of the most key things you need to know for the AP exam. So here's some more vocab. Metadata is basically data about the data, basically. So like, for example, the destination, and like the amount, amount of data there is. So basically data about data, which helps the packets eventually get to the destination that they need to. So now World Wide Web is a system of linked pages, programs, and files through, like, generally accessed through a browser. So Google or Microsoft Edge, for example. And another protocol, we've got HTTP, or Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is used for transmitting web pages over the internet, basically. And Domain Name System, or DNS, is the system translating domain names like example.com into IP addresses. So, for example, if I type lwsd.org, it gets the IP address over here, for example. And if I type, let me just show you some example domain names, because you're gonna need to know these for uh and and also subdomain names you're gonna need to know. So, for example, uh wait 1 second. So if we try to look at subdomain names of domain name, let's see. For example, they're gonna have something over here before the actual thing, so example.com. So just remember, this is kind of like what a subdomain looks like. You're probably gonna get one of these questions like on a test, maybe on the AP exam, or even if you're taking the CSP class right now. But just know that's what a subdomain looks like. Yeah, so back to here. Digital divide and net neutrality. These are just like, sorry. These are just scenarios basically that these are like real life scenarios. Uh, yeah, so these are important real life scenarios to know for the test. So, what digital divide is differing access to computing devices and the internet based on demographic or geographics. Think of it like, for example, here in the United States, we have very good access to technology, whereas in Africa, it's you cannot get like good internet there based on like the because it's much more underdeveloped, like the countries in Africa and other bad characteristics. And for net neutrality, it's a principle that internet service providers or ISPs should enable access to all content and treat all traffic equally without favoring specific products or services. Basically allowing access to like each part of the internet instead of like one favorite thing. So here's the internet hierarchy. This is a good way to think about it. So the internet protocol is like the most important, like overarching one. Then comes TCP and UDP, which help send the data to different parts. And then comes, for example, like email and that stuff, and domain names. Yeah, so let's do a bit of practice problems. So here we have this diagram over here. You're gonna This is a very common APCSP question that you should be good at. So what is the minimum number of connections that must be broken to prevent device G from communicating with device A? So basically we need to find all the devices that we're using to connect device G to device A. So we know that, for example, we need to we need to find all the so basically we need to look at what what is being connected to device G. So these lines are connecting to device G, basically. And if this connection is broken and this connection is broken, we know that G cannot reach A because there's nothing connecting to E which will allow it to follow the path. So we know that we need to break this connection and this connection. That way G will be left stranded. So the minimum number of connections that must be broken to prevent device G from communicating with device A is 2. So, second question, if device B fails, will device A still be able to communicate with device E? So, let's say so over here this is what device B. Let's just take this out. So it means this doesn't connect either and this doesn't connect either. Well, we see that A can still go through D and D connects with E, or it can go from C, which goes to F, which also connects to E. So device A will still be able to communicate with device B in that case. So yes. So hopefully that makes sense. If you want more practice MCQs or test questions, let me know. DM me. And if you have any questions about the content, also please ask me. I can set up a call with you if you want. So yeah, just make sure you understand this, okay? Here's some other MCQs. So, according to a domain name system, which of the following is a subdomain of the domain example.com? So, we just saw this earlier. I showed you the example. So, there's really not much I can really explain about this one. It's just gonna be this, like I showed you. Just know like there'll be a subdomain over here. It'll come before the example.com, which is the actual domain. So for the next one, which of these is a requirement for a computer to access the internet? A wired connection using an Ethernet or fiber optic cable, a monthly payment to the engineering task force, or the ability to connect that computer to another internet connecting device. So we know this is definitely true. So not necessarily a wired connection, because this is common sense. We have wireless connections, so it cannot be. This is not necessarily a requirement, so it cannot be one. A monthly payment to the Internet Engineering Task Force, not necessarily. So for three, the ability to connect that computer to another internet connecting device, that is one of the requirements. So we know it's three makes the most sense. So that's why this is the main answer. And on the AP test, you're gonna have moments where you feel like there are three good answers, but one answer is just better. And you have to always figure out which one is the best answer and think why is it the best answer based on what you've learned. So, like I said, just let me know if you have any more questions, if you want more practice. I can always give you a practice test if you want, practice internet questions. uh Khan Academy is a very good resource if you want practice. um yeah, those are yeah, just review these concepts and finish the homework from last time. We will not have we will we'll go cover lesson 4 next time. uh we won't have a lesson for a week because of spring break. So yeah, just continue to work hard, keep doing what you're doing, and I'll post this I'll post it I'll post the homework here later, and yeah, thank you.